Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the Keystone Virtual College Exploration. The session you're attending is Communicating STEM in Your Application. Please note that you can use the question and answer button at any time to ask our panelists some questions. And please do turn your camera and microphone off. Sign up for more sessions if you have, as you look through the list, there's some great ones to go to, and the recording will be available through the Keystone Virtual Exploration website. And with that, I'm going to stop sharing and I'm going to hand this over to our panelists. Panelists, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to our panel presentation. We are all very excited to have you here. Of course, what better way to start off a Zoom panel with a little bit of internet lag. So welcome to the parents and counselors and students who are here. I am excited to be sharing with you a little bit about what we think, as I guess we can call ourselves experts, what we think you should be doing in order to maximize how you present yourself as aligned with a STEM interest. So let me share my screen. And hopefully that's coming through. So we are here from four very different, but also in some ways similar institutions, and excited to talk to you about your STEM interests. So important to think about all of the options that you have. You are absolutely spoiled for choice, which is wonderful. There are so many colleges that you could apply to, and most of them admit the majority of students who apply. So when you hear a lot of names get thrown around, often they are among the most selective colleges in the country. We are representative of some of those colleges, but we want you to know that there are a lot of fantastic options. There are many that have ABET accreditation. ABET is the accreditation board for engineering programs, and so that is often a great way to narrow your search if you are interested in the engineering aspect of STEM. You can have preferences that are unique to you, like location, distance, like not just location, but distance from home type of location, urban, rural, suburban, you know, school big enough that it's its own city, a school small enough where there's 2 buildings. You can have preferences on campus style, whether it looks like Hogwarts behind me or whether, again, it's a really urban atmosphere. When you hear names of schools, it's great for you to write them down and learn more, but don't always just rely on other people's word of mouth. Oh, this school is great. Oh, you want to do this major? This school's great for you. You should totally go there. Well, take that with a grain of salt, write it down, say thank you. You may have heard now of the name of the school you'll attend, or you may have heard a name of a school that doesn't even offer the major that you'd like to study. So make sure to take the time and do your own research. Once you've gotten the things on paper, you'll realize that there are a lot more factors than just what the buildings look like and where the school is located. It's all the people that make up a college. And if you don't necessarily align with the mission of the university or agree with the perspectives or the styles of learning of the kinds of students at that institution, then that may not be the right fit for you. Even if, again, on paper, everything is lining up. They have your major, it's the right distance, it's the right size. So think about a few things. These are just some suggestions. I don't know you all personally, but hopefully these are things that will resonate with you. What supports do you need to be successful? Do you thrive in smaller classes? Do you thrive in hands-on environments? Do you have an individualized learning plan where you're going to need some different support or certain resources provided for you? Make sure that colleges you're looking at will offer that. Think about experiences you want to have. Ask, can students in these majors go abroad? What kinds of internships or research programs do you have for students in that major? Think about the things that you like other than STEM. Hopefully there are things, but if there are just multiple STEM things, certainly ask about all of those and how you might be able to pursue them. Can you do double majors? Can you do majors and minors? Are there clubs that you could join? Talk to current students. Of course, that's the best way to get a real live students experience and their point of view. But remember, everybody's got an opinion, right? So talk to a variety of different students about their experiences, not just, you know, the tour guide or not just the person that's your cousin. And then think about what your outcome might want to be. Do you want to work at a certain company? Do you want to go to a specific type of graduate program? And then ask the school what kind of experience they have getting students there. Do they have 10,000 students going on every year to medical school, or one? So those are questions that you can think of. Some of these will not be resonating with you at all. Some of these will not be factors, but some of them might be really important. And you might even already have some in your head that are different from the ones that I've just discussed that are above and beyond critical to you to make sure that you can get along. So we all represent different colleges. I work with Lehigh University, and so I'm going to tell you a little bit about Lehigh, but we're going to go in alphabetical order. So my colleagues are going to jump in, and in about a minute, 1 minute, we're going to summarize everything you need to know about our colleges, believe it or not.
Hi, everyone. I'm Kathleen Voss from Georgia Tech. It's great to be with you all this afternoon. Georgia Tech is a leading research university. We're located on 400 beautiful acres in Atlanta, Georgia. We have over 16,000 undergraduates who come to us from all over the world, which is pretty exciting. And this year, we're super excited that for the first time ever, we have just gone over 40,000 total students. So we were all cheering about that a couple of weeks ago. At Georgia Tech, we have 6 colleges. They include our College of Engineering, our College of Computing, our College of Business. We have a phenomenal School of Science, our College of Design, and our College of Liberal Arts. At Georgia Tech, students are in the business of creating the next technology, creating the next idea, creating the next cure. And I'm really looking forward to talking to you more about STEM opportunities today, and also opportunities that Georgia Tech might offer you. Thanks so much.
And I am Sarah with Lehigh University, as you can see by my nifty name tag. Lehigh University is a medium-sized, about 5,000 undergraduate students. We're a research university. We are big enough to have the resources that you'll find at many much larger schools, but we're small enough where the professors get to know you and you get a lot of personal attention. We have 4 academic colleges on this absolutely beautiful and very hilly and stairs-filled campus. We have the College of Engineering and Applied Science. We have the College of Arts and Sciences, our liberal arts college. We have the College of Health, which offers a major in population health and is brand new as of a month ago. And we have the College of Business. We specialize in a few different areas. One is creative problem solving. Hilly campus, the inventor of the escalator is a Lehigh alum. That's creative problem solving. We have a very collaborative culture. You will find students working together in interdisciplinary teams with students in completely different areas of study. And you will also not find a cutthroat competitive atmosphere. Students work together, not in opposition. We want all students to realize that they can have an impact on humanity, whether it's in a STEM major, whether it's in philosophy or psychology. They can all help others and make a brighter future. We have a very dynamic community, and we have students from 49 states on campus. If you know anybody in North Dakota, please call us. But we pride ourselves on our students being inclusive and being an actively anti-racist community. Finally, we are proud of our postgraduate success. 94% of students before graduation have an internship or other experiential learning opportunity. Last year, 95% of graduates were placed within 6 months of graduation. So if you'd like to learn more, I hope you will.
Hi, everyone. My name is JT Dock. I am the Dean of Admissions at Tufts University. Tufts is awesome. We are an academically rigorous, student-centered Tier 1 research university with the heart and soul of a liberal arts college. And we're located just north of downtown Boston, as you can see in this shot of our campus here. Our nearly 6,000 undergraduates study across our School of Arts and Sciences, School of Engineering, and our School of the Museum of Fine Arts. You have over 150 different majors and minors and programs to choose from, including 16 different engineering degrees, plus biology and physics and chemistry and math and computer science and astronomy and architectural studies and pre-med and pre-vet. There's a lot of choices. So many, in fact, that many of our students double major or do a major and a minor. We have a deep commitment to supporting students from all backgrounds through our faculty-led research programs, our internship opportunities, and our programming offered through our Center for STEM Diversity. At Tufts, our students are known for being intellectually playful, for being kind, for being collaborative, and for being civically engaged. And for every student we admit, we will meet your full demonstrated financial need. So we want a Tufts education to be accessible to every single student that we admit.
Hello, everyone. My name is Easton. I am coming to you from Washington University in St. Louis. We are a medium-sized research institution with just over 7,100 undergraduates on our Danforth campus. We are spread across 5 academic divisions: the College of Arts and Sciences, the McKelvey School of Engineering, our Olin Business School, and then our College of Art and our College of Architecture. We also have 3 separate graduate programs in medicine, law, and social work. Our undergraduates have the ability to take classes across all of our 5 undergraduate divisions, as well as some coursework in our graduate programs. We commonly see students with majors and minors across divisions as well. Interdisciplinary study is one of the main focuses of the university, and so about 80% of our students will have more than one concentration as they move through WashU. Our largest program right now at the university is computer science, and we've seen that grow very quickly over the last few years, their largest major being biology. WashU, like I said, really wants to work on interdisciplinary study, but also on active experiential learning. We want students that are into knowledge creation. We want you to be in the classroom, actually working on projects, talking with your fellow classmates, not just listening to a professor from the back of the class. At the same time, we want you to feel heard, we want you to feel supported, and to feel like you're being treated as an individual. Our unofficial motto is to get to know every single student by name and story. You're not just a grade on a piece of paper, you are an individual thinker with an individual way of learning, with your own interests and background, and that is what makes WashU so special. We have undergraduate students from all 50 states, and if you add in our graduate students and all, sorry Sarah, if you add in all of our graduate students, faculty, and staff, we have over 100 different countries represented on our campus. Really creates a very unique environment for our students to live and grow together. But I will say my favorite part of the school is and has always been the food. It's very good. So you'll always be happy when you're at WashU and you're able to get a nice chicken tender quesadilla.
I will just come back with your 50 states and say that we have Chicken Finger Friday every Friday. So, get on that level. So how do you demonstrate your fit? Is this my slide? I think it is my slide. Yes, sorry. I was too busy thinking about chicken fingers. So this is ultimately the remainder of the application, or the remainder of the presentation, right? How do you think about all the things that you like about the STEM work that you've done, the classes that you've taken, and show our colleges or other colleges that you would like to be a part of that more and do that perhaps at the exclusion of other things? You can do that in a lot of different ways. You can do that in a variety of different pieces of the application. And again, we're going to go through that. So you can talk about it in hopefully show in your transcript that you are qualified, right? And you are prepared to take on these challenging courses. You can tell us about skills that you've already developed and experiences that you've already had. And you can talk about the impact that maybe STEM has had on you in your personal life, or the impact you hope to make in the STEM world, whether that's engineering, whether that's the biological sciences, whether it's mathematics or what have you. So again, these are all things that you are driving. There is no one right STEM essay. There is no one right STEM resume. And hopefully my colleagues will be telling you a little bit more about how to make yourself stand out in your own unique way.
So I want to start by talking about academic preparation. You have heard this before. When you're applying to colleges, admissions officers are going to look closely at your transcript. They're going to look at your coursework. They're going to look at your grades to get a sense of how you're academically prepared for our institutions. If you are thinking about a program or a major in the sciences or engineering fields, we're going to pay particular attention to your college prep coursework in math and science to get a sense of what classes you've had access to and what classes you have taken. Some of the institutions that you end up applying to might have particular requirements or prerequisites for you to fulfill before you even enroll, depending on the entry-level courses in their programs. It's fairly common to see some engineering degrees expect you to have already completed calculus, and physics. So I want to point those out in particular because you will see that quite a bit. Even when you enroll on their campuses, you might then take calculus or physics again, but it's having that exposure that is part of what sets you up for success. That is not a universal requirement. So you do look at each of the colleges that you're applying to. And then some institutions will offer recommendations asking you to take the more rigorous or the most rigorous coursework available to you. So the more selective places you're applying to, or the particular type of degree program you're seeking at that institution, there might be greater expectations in terms of your academic preparedness. You can also take elective courses in STEM. So the traditional STEM courses are things like biology, chemistry, physics, and math through Algebra 2, through pre-calculus and calculus. You might take some elective courses, and those are things like computer science or engineering or medical courses that your school might offer. Those are typically not required, but they can show your commitment to and your interest in STEM as an academic discipline. And they show us that you're serious about STEM, that you're interested in that. So we're not just looking at STEM. So even at my institution with our School of Engineering, we are going to look more closely at your calculus and your physics and your STEM preparation. But by coming to this institution, you're going to have access to courses across the School of Arts and Sciences and across our art school. And so we're looking to make sure you're going to be successful generally at our program. A lot of us will have distribution requirements or coursework that's outside of STEM that we expect you to complete here. So we will look to see what you've done in English, in the social sciences, and potentially the foreign language disciplines. And at a competitive institution, even if you're thinking about engineering, how you do in these other subject areas matters tremendously in terms of your ability to gain admission to them. Some of our students change their majors. So we have students who come to Tufts specifically to study engineering, and they get here and they enjoy it, but they discover anthropology, or they discover biology, or something else they want to do that's separate from engineering. We want to make sure you're going to be successful here, even if you change your area of interest. We do look at the rigor of your coursework in the context of your school. Each of you that are watching this presentation attend different schools, and you have access to different courses because of that. So what we do is we look to see what is offered at your school, what honors courses are offered, what college prep courses are offered, what AP or IB or dual enrollment courses are offered or available to you. And we look to see what you've done with that. And there's no expectation that you max out and take all 25 AP courses that your school might offer. The idea is that you push yourself appropriately, you challenge yourself appropriately, and that you are successful in the classes that you are taking. This is a peculiar year, so particularly if you're moving into your senior year right now, your junior and senior years have been disrupted by COVID. We recognize that and understand that, and there are some schools that have had to reduce or shift their course offerings in STEM or other fields, and so that will, a note about that will be included with your application. And all we can ask is that you take advantage of what's available to you, and we know that what is available to you is changing right now.
So another section of the application is that we consider in holistic review is the activities piece. This piece might be called different things at different schools: activities, contribution to community, extracurriculars. But essentially, we're all looking at this portion of the application to determine the same thing. So what are a student's talents and skills? What is the student passionate about? Where does the student spend their time outside of the classroom? Will this student be a good fit on our campus? And also for some colleges, does the student have activities that show their interest under the lens of a particular major? There is no perfect number of activities. What and how much you do will differ from student to student. At Georgia Tech, we have admitted students who participate in one or two things, and we've also admitted students who seem to do everything under the sun. Also, while this presentation, we're speaking a little bit maybe to the Common App, these suggestions that all of us are giving can also apply to the Coalition application, as well as any other state-specific applications that you might encounter. This slide shows a nice array of what you should list in this section. You're going to see that this list is quite varied, and I thought I'd point out a few of the ones that students tend to leave out or forget about. Jobs is number one. Students often don't consider their employment as an extracurricular, but we do. And if you work, definitely let us know. Work shows maturity, it shows independence, as well as dependability. Tinkering, and for those of you who don't know what tinkering is, it's kind of an old-fashioned word, but it's basically taking things apart and putting them back together again. And especially if you're considering a major in STEM, maybe you spend time repairing cars or lawnmowers. Maybe you like to take laptops apart and put them back together again. Last year I read the application of a student who was working on he's working by himself on creating a rocket, and he spent hundreds of hours trying to perfect this device. Another activity that's often left out is family responsibilities. And especially this year, if you have been called upon to help and support your families, many of you this has happened in ways that we've never seen before. So make sure you're sharing this information with us. Essentially, we're interested in all of the wonderful things in places that you spend your time outside of the classroom. In the activities section, you also want to make sure that you're including all of the information that you see here on this slide. Don't leave any stone unturned. Prior to completing this section, you probably want to think about the following questions, and maybe you write down your answers on a separate piece of paper before you dive into the application. And those questions would be, what have I done day to day over the past 3.5 years? What were some of the problems that I solved over the past 3.5 years, and what impact did my activities have, or did I have in my job, or in my high school extracurriculars, or in my community? Also spend some time thinking about, what were you promoted, or were you elected or honored in some way because of your dedication to that particular activity? And make sure you include the activities that you're continuing to do in senior year. Sometimes students forget about that. So if you were elected to student council for this year, but you were elected in the spring or in the winter last year, you want to make sure you include that. The same can be said for perhaps you were named captain of a sport, but that season hasn't started yet. So you want to make sure you include that for us as well. Next slide, please. So here's an example of what we see on the admissions side when we're looking at the activities section of the application. So if you take a peek at that very first one, the type of activity is work. The name of the activity is summer research internship. And we also see that this student, as it was his first one, it was 11th grade. He or she participated in 11th grade over summer break. It was a 9-week program, and the student worked 9 weeks, 40 hours a week. This student also plans to continue this activity in the future. This student has provided us with some strong descriptive words in the activities section. Collaborated is one of them, responsible, chaired a committee. Using these strong action words in the activities section is much like using them on a resume. They help you to stand out, and they also provide us with more detail about the activity that you're sharing. Another point, this student put his STEM internship as the #1 activity listed. I think this was probably purposeful and a good idea, and for the purpose of this exercise, I think it helps us a bit. There are those universities who are looking at applicants under the lens of major, especially in the STEM fields. And for this example, an example that I often see is a student who wants to major in computing. Well, then I might go and look to see, was the student a participant in a robotics club, or maybe a coding club, or maybe they even worked at Geek Squad at some point in their high school career. So this is something that speaks to a student's passion. And remember, if you need more space for your accomplishments, the Common App and most applications do have additional information sections where you can share that. Some colleges also want additional materials, and some do not. It's really important for you to keep track of who wants what. Some examples of these additional activity supplements are listed here, and it's a nice comprehensive list. If you are going to submit a portfolio or a research abstract, sometimes these are going directly to faculty committees as opposed to the admissions office. So it's important for you to make sure that you're sending this information to the correct office. Be sure to read the fine print. And most colleges will clearly tell you how many recommendations that they want. And friends, if a college says 2, they really mean it. They really mean 2. They don't mean 5. From a STEM perspective, many students want to, and they should, showcase recommendations from those STEM teachers and mentors and employers. Just make sure that that recommender really knows you, not only as an academic or an employee, but also they know a bit about your character and also your accomplishments.
Awesome. So obviously one of the essential 2020 moment and feeling is the impacts of COVID-19. And we understand that your plans this year have changed, and how much they have changed and how you've been impacted is obviously going to be unique to you. And so we want to make sure that, first of all, you know that we know. We've also been living through this as well. So we know that things have been impacted. We know that you had plans for the spring, this summer, this fall that you have not maybe been able to follow through to the fullest extent. Maybe you were planning on doing research this summer, or your spring baseball season was canceled, anything in between. We totally understand that. Many applications this fall, Common App, the Coalition app, and a number of other applications out there offer opportunities for you to share how COVID-19 has impacted you personally. It's not something that's required. It's not something you have to do, but if you feel like it's essential to telling your story, I encourage you to do so. Talk a little bit about what the interruption was. How did things change for you? At the same time, what were you planning on doing? How is your involvement a little bit different now? If you maybe were able to shift gears and all of a sudden, well, I wasn't originally planning on doing this, but actually I decided to take a summer class, or was able to, I met with a student recently who talked about starting an online tutoring program for other students. Great opportunities like that where you were able to shift gears and show initiative, wonderful to share. But at the same time, if it's just like, hey, this is a little bit of where I wanted to be and this is where I ended up, that's okay too. The biggest key with this application, more than any other year, is context. You want to be able to understand the context behind your situation, your background. If you don't tell us something, then we will never know it, right? We don't know what we don't know. So if you feel like there's something that's really important to your application, to understanding who you are and where your involvements may want to be or have wanted to be, please feel free to share that. Use that COVID-19 section as well. We really do want to hear from you in that regard. With that being said, we also just want to hear from you, period. We want to understand more about who you are. There's so many different parts of this application that are maybe a little bit more standardized, right? Your grades, your scores, even your extracurriculars to an extent are fairly similar from person to person. But who you are, your interests, your personality, what brought you to your interest in STEM, that's usually going to be fairly unique to you. And that's also one of the hardest parts for us to learn about in this process. So we want to encourage you to share that. And there are a number of different ways to highlight those interests in your essays. And it's going to come through different opportunities. The first thing is it'll allow you to talk a little bit more about context for where that interest in STEM came from. Was it watching Bill Nye when you were a kid, like I did? I hope you all know who Bill Nye is. He's awesome. Or maybe it came from a book that you read, or you saw your older sibling talking about robotics, whatever it may be, whatever drew you personally to it. We'd love to know more. At the same time, we'd love to know more about where you're going. What is your future? Do you want to get to college and expand your involvement and try and figure out a way to combine your passion for medicine with your passion for international politics? That sounds awesome. Tell us about it. When we're looking through these programs and we're looking through these essays, we want to see the heart behind it. We want to see the interest. We want to see the goals. We're not quite as interested in the tech, the technical difficulties or skills related to individual things. If you give me a full list of how you built a computer step by step, I may not be able to follow it. I'm not one that can do that on my own. But if you tell me about how it impacted you and how it put you on your path towards computer engineering one day, that's great. And that's really what we're trying to get out of it. Also, you have to think, we want to know a little bit more, again, about you, the person. So maybe it's not just that STEM interest, but it's really that deeper dive into why are you involved in these different groups? What really gets you excited? What gets you motivated at the end of the day? What are your values? And what impact do you want to make? We're looking for that larger picture because that's the information that we're going to use as we move through our committee process. It's not just, again, about that grade. It's not just about, can you do the work in the classroom? It's what type of impact are you going to have on our campus communities? I think I can speak for all of us when I say we really value the community at our universities, not just the in-class experience. So seeing who that person is so essential as we move through this process. A little more water as we move to the next slide. Another opportunity that you have here is to really convey your interest, your fit for a university, bringing us all the way full circle to our beginning. So a number of universities will have their own specific essays, whether it's a supplemental essay, if it's a quote unquote why WashU essay or why this scholarship essay. It's your opportunity to learn more about that school, to figure out what are they all about, what are they looking for, what type of person or student is going to fit best within this program or within this school. This is beneficial to you. This is giving you time to look into these schools and really say, hey, I've heard a lot about this place and I'm applying there. And now that I'm looking into seeing who they are, maybe I am not that interested in it. Or at the same time, allow you to be that much more excited and like, wow, the culture of this school is really something that fits with me. And all of a sudden I'm more excited in writing this essay and now maybe this is my first choice school. So it really is beneficial from that standpoint. It's also wonderful for us to get to see that fit, right? We're trying to see, again, who you're going to be on our campus. Key when you're going through these, no matter what the essay is, respond to the prompt. Respond to the question that's being asked. We want to get to know exactly where you are and who you are, but we're detailing these essays in certain ways. So if we're asking you to tell us a little bit about why you're interested in our, let's say, our chemistry program, we'd love to know why you're interested in chemistry. We'd also love to know about your interest in podcasts too, but if they're not chemistry podcasts, then it's not quite as relevant of a scenario. So always remember to answer the prompt directly with something related to who you are as a person. At the end of the day, if you feel like you're writing something that isn't who you are, or you're trying to be a little bit somebody that's not quite in line with your goals, maybe that program isn't the best fit for you, and that's okay. There's not just 4 schools out there. It's not just us 4. There's thousands of schools across the country and across the world that could be best fits for you. And so maybe it's just time to make that next step and find your better home. So with that, that is our planned remarks for the afternoon. So that's all of our information, admissions websites and email addresses for all of us. But we are here to answer your questions. I know there's a few that have been coming through in the Q&A, so I'm happy to start addressing a few of them. No, there was a question here about who to ask for a letter of recommendation that I wanted to hop on first. When you're thinking about people to ask for letters of recommendation, always think about people that know you best. Think about the context of that letter, right? Knowing that somebody who knows you as a junior and senior in high school is usually a little bit more helpful than somebody who just knew you when you were in 8th grade. You've probably grown a little bit, and that helps us as well. Also remember, again, different contexts for different parts of your life. If you feel like you're asking somebody to write a letter who is going to pretty much say the exact same thing that another person said, I'm asking 3 English teachers to write my letters, maybe not the best use of your time. Just from the standpoint of there's only so many positive adjectives in the English language. So at a certain point, they start to get repetitive. But if you're showing us, like, hey, I've got this background in STEM, but I've also got this person who's talking a little bit about my involvement outside of the classroom. I've got my coach or mentor and another teacher in art. it's a lot of letters right there, but there's all different parts of who you are. And so being able to show that and give that fuller view of you as a person is always helpful for us.
I would agree with that. And I'd also say sometimes the best recommendations that I read, I don't know if my colleagues will agree, but they come from the teacher where a student might have actually struggled. I think that most students think it has to come from a class where they're successful, right? But some of the most interesting stories of achievement come from that class where a student really had to work. And I find that that's where the teachers are able to share so much about a student's character. So I do appreciate that too. And then I think one other comment about recommendations would be, students, if you have not yet reached out to your prospective recommender, I would very much encourage you to do that sooner as opposed to later. Teachers today are really under so much more pressure than any other year before. And if you want them to be able to provide the time and to actually sit down and really give that letter their very best attention, you need to request it soon if you have not.
There was another question in the Q&A about whether or not, if you don't have any major related clubs available at your school, does it put you as an applicant at a disadvantage? And again, the point that I think we've all maybe touched on, and I know JT really mentioned it, is that we're looking at what's available to you, right? So, you know, certainly if you are a junior or younger, start one if that's an option and you're thinking, wow, I really wish we had an engineering club. Well, go get it, like do it. And that's a really great thing to put in your resume, that you started your own club. But if there's not an existing one, if you're a senior, if everything's remote and things are tough anyway, it's fine. You know, likewise with some of the courses that are available, some high schools offer an anatomy and physiology course, some don't. Some offer AP calculus, some don't. So we're going to see you where you are. We're going to acknowledge what you've done with what you've had the ability to do. And whatever you're bringing to the table is enough. So, you know, certainly don't be afraid to start clubs, but you will not be at a disadvantage if you are not in, you know, the physics club at your high school.
It's also a perfect time to, again, express that interest in your essays. When you haven't been able to be involved in something directly related to a program you're interested in, being able to talk about where that interest lies and what you want to do with it and what you could have done with it, all that fun stuff that's going on in your mind, share that in your essay. That gives us that context. Any way that you can share it is always wonderful.
So another question that came up, and this is a great one. I've had so much trouble trying to get into SAT scheduling and trying to take one. Should I just give up and go test optional? Who wants to take the first bite out of that one?
I'll start. Yeah, it's really hard to get a test seat. We get it. We know, we get it. And that's exactly why so many places went test optional. It's a recognition of that, and it's permission not to test. Now, the caveat is that it's up to you to look at each of the schools that you're considering and just make sure that you understand what their testing policies are, and whether they are actually test optional and whether there are any particular majors or programs or scholarships that they do expect applicants to have test scores for. And so that's part of your doing due diligence. But generally, if an institution has gone test optional, the idea is that you get to choose whether or not you're submitting scores. And you may not have any scores to submit. And there will just be hundreds of thousands of students this year that are unable to test for any number of reasons. And on our end, we're gonna trust that you're not submitting scores because either you couldn't test or you don't want us to see them, and we're going to base our review on the other pieces of your application at no disadvantage to you. So don't feel like you need to test if you're only applying to test optional places that are clear that they don't need test scores. So yeah, I'm trying to be more vocal about encouraging students to stop trying to register for the tests and to focus instead on their senior year and on their classes and on their friendships and their physical and mental and emotional health and all these other things that are much more important than the SAT.
I think everything you said, JT, is spot on, and I would absolutely concur with all of it. I feel like, especially with the panel that's here today, I mean, going test optional, we truly, truly mean it. And we really feel that this is a gift to our students, and we want you to take advantage of this gift, because if someone had asked me 12 months ago if this would have even been a possibility, I would have said absolutely not. And this is something that I think myself, I see my colleagues nodding, we've all really been just so happy that we can offer you this opportunity. So take advantage of it.
Ditto for Lehigh. We went test optional this year. Optional for us means optional. We don't want another paper. We don't need an essay question. We don't need an extra recommendation. It just means you don't submit your scores. So, for us, it's absolutely something to be leveraged, whether you don't want to spend a Saturday or a Wednesday or whatever day sitting for 4 hours in a room with a piece of paper and a number 2 pencil and a lot of hand sanitizer, or you do not like standardized tests, or you are in any other year that student who's going to reach out to me and say, I'm not a good standardized test taker. Well, this is your year. And in future years, students who are juniors, sophomores, first years, counselors who are watching, just stay tuned. I think some schools will stay test optional, some will go back, but you'll have to do that research, right? Do your own homework and find out. Easton, unless you have something else to add, I'll transition to another question.
I was going to say the same thing. The only other thing to keep in mind is, and this is from some experience at another university, but when looking at schools, if you are somebody who has tested already, JT mentioned making sure that you know the individual policies of each school. Also know the individual, middle 50% average test score at each school. For somebody that's applying to one university, their score could be way above the middle 50% and all of a sudden really strengthen your application, and applying to a separate school with the exact same test score may not be as strong. And so you may not necessarily have a blanket choice of being test optional or applying with testing. So if you have those scores, do be aware of those little differences. But yeah, definitely don't feel like you can't apply test optional or it's going to be harder. Like whatever is going to work best for you, and keep that mental health as strong as possible is what you should go for.
So maybe Kathleen, you can tackle this one. The question is, if you've had 2 officer positions in the same club, where should that be noted? Should it be listed as 2 separate activities, or in the description, or in the title of any feedback on that?
I've seen it handled in a couple of different ways. I've seen it listed under one activity, and the student just goes into a little bit more detail about the different years and what they did. I've also seen it broken out, and I think it really depends on the amount of work that was involved, the amount of time that was spent. It's a lot different being the president of your class versus maybe a homeroom representative, right? So think about that. Think about it logically, and if both positions deserve the attention and took up a significant amount of your time, then list them separately.
Okay, and we have just a few moments left. I think this is a good one to tackle. Is it bad if for my essay, and for some schools, I'm thinking probably the supplemental essay or a school-specific essay, that this student is having trouble trying to find the best answer and feeling lost? Any tips for somebody who might be not really even sure where to start? So I think because students haven't been able to visit campuses, it is very challenging to capture an institution's atmosphere and that feeling of fit. So I think the first place to start, we all have spent significant amounts of time really amping up and beefing up our virtual opportunities to visit campus. So I definitely start there. Listen to student panels, listen to our faculty conversations. We've all put those together for you. Take that virtual tour of campus and see if that sparks some interest and some energy before you sit down to write that essay.
My biggest word of advice would just be knowing that you're not the only one that's having a hard time writing it, and that's always that way. Trying to be introspective is not an easy thing, especially when you're in high school. And so again, taking a step back and really thinking about what's important to you, what's important for someone to learn about who you are, asking people around you, asking your friends, asking your family, teachers that you're close with, relying on those resources is really helpful in understanding like, hey, what's important to me, what's important for them to know about me, and then building off of that. You're not alone in that process.
I do think I will say though that if you are not even sure where to start with a supplemental essay, an essay is asking you like, describe how you feel about something, and you're just like, geez, I don't even know, then maybe really think about why the school is asking you that question and whether or not that's a school that you want to be at. There are colleges that pride themselves on their interesting application questions and their, sometimes very quirky questions. And that's great if you like that. And if you find one that you can resonate with, but if you're like, I don't like any of these, they're all too frivolous, then maybe that's not the right type of college for you. So in our supplements, we try to tell you a little bit about who we are, what we believe in, the kind of student that you're going to find, because guess what? Everybody else who goes there is going to have answered those questions and maybe been really excited to do so. So it gives you a taste of maybe what the college is like. Beyond, why the college, that's pretty straightforward, but additional supplemental questions, if you're really struggling and you're like, they're asking about politics and you're like, I don't care about politics, then, you might be surrounded by people who do care. Just think about whether you want to spend the money to apply.
All right. Well, I must say a huge, huge, huge and heartfelt thanks to our presenters. What wonderful advice for all of us to hear, and calming our nerves and giving us the encouragement to move forward. I'm going to share my screen again. On behalf of PACAC, I want to thank all of the attendees as well. Here is just for your own, come on, there it is. If you're curious about the recording, so you can listen to it again, that is going to be available in the very same place where you signed up for this session. And when I close this meeting, there will be a quick survey for all of you to fill out. Thank you very much once again, and enjoy a lovely Friday afternoon. Thank you, presenters.
Thank you. Thanks for attending, everyone.